Good afternoon, my Real News Midday TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update for Wednesday, November 26, 2025. And in the news this afternoon, robbery at a bar in Ginger Ridge District, St. Catherine. The police in Brownshall, St. Catherine are investigating a robbery at a bar in Connors in the Ginger Ridge District. It is reported that about 1:35 on Monday morning, a female worker locked up the establishment and went to the back of the premises to await the operator. A group of armed men held her up at gunpoint and robbed her of her cell phone. The hoodlums then forced the woman to open the bar and proceeded to steal alcoholic beverages. According to the police, the alcohol is valued at almost $200,000. The men then reportedly fired shots and fled in two awaiting motor cars. Dawn calls for robust garbage collection amid leptospirosis outbreak. As the country navigates a leptospirosis outbreak post-Hurricane Melissa, opposition spokesperson on health, Dr. Alfred Dawes, is calling for the government to implement a robust garbage collection system. So far, 11 cases of the bacterial disease have been confirmed, with the Ministry of Health probing several probable and suspected cases. Dr. Dawes says a multimodal approach is needed to stave off a national outbreak of leptospirosis, chikungunya, and dengue fever.
We ought to focus not only on trying to send out information to say avoid streams and water, but we ought to look at how we can address the environmental factors that are causing this outbreak. Garbage collection is an issue. It is piling up not just out west but across the island. Even in my constituency that was largely spared, water is an issue. We heard from the MPs that water is rising. In some areas, there is a stench of dead animals, and you cannot simply say to people avoid contaminated water when that is the only water that they have available. To say that we have 11 cases of leptospirosis begs questions. Are we testing enough? Are we missing cases? And if we are faced with a national outbreak, can we ramp up testing to have results back to see whether or not the case that we're dealing with in front of us as a physician is really leptospirosis or not? I don't believe relying on PAHO. Cuba is dealing with their own epidemics right now. They have best practices that they're willing to share with us.
Murders surpass 600, down 42%. The homicide rate in Jamaica continues on its downward path, as crime statistics show that murders are down 42% when compared to last year. According to the latest data from the Jamaica Constabulary Force, as at November 22, the country recorded 604 murders. This is 437 fewer than the 1,041 persons killed during the period under review last year. Last week, 13 murders were recorded. The St. Andrews South Police Division, with 70 homicides to date, leads the country in murders. The division is followed by St. Catherine North with 57, St. Anne 54, St. James 49, and St. Catherine South 48, rounding out the top 5 most murderous police divisions so far this year. Across all 19 police divisions, murders are on the decline in 17 divisions year on year. Shootings, injured persons, and rape have also declined. Robberies and break-ins continue to show a steady increase when compared to last year, up 9% and 20% respectively. Sharp economic decline expected in December 2025 quarter. Following the devastation caused by Hurricane Melissa, the Planning Institute of Jamaica says it expects the Jamaican economy to contract by 11 to 13% in the December 2025 quarter, the sharpest decline since the COVID-19 pandemic. The last time the country experienced a similar downturn was between April to June of 2020, when the pandemic severely disrupted economic activity. PIOJ Director General Dr. Wayne Henry during his quarterly briefing on Tuesday morning, said the short-term prospect for the Jamaican economy is generally negative, reflecting the impact of the passage of the storm.
This outlook stems from the devastation which the Category 5 hurricane had on residential and productive assets, to include the housing stock, the electricity generation, transmission and distribution network, the road network, and water supply infrastructure. It is expected that there will be a significant fall in output and demand during the short to medium term. This outturn would end the 3 consecutive quarters of economic growth, which reflected the gradual recovery following the passage of Hurricane Beryl and Tropical Storm Raphael during the latter half of 2024. The extent of the damage from Hurricane Melissa is unprecedented and far-reaching, affecting all industries. This is expected to result in increased unemployment, weakened demand, and output.
Dr. Henry explained that the expected economic contraction for October to December 2025 is primarily expected to be transmitted through agriculture and tourism. He said the 7 hardest hit parishes accounted for approximately 74% of total hectares of land devoted to domestic crop production, as well as a significant share of animal farming and export of crops. Tourism is expected to suffer, with those parishes representing approximately 89% of the country's total hotel room stock. Dr. Henry said damage to infrastructure, the temporary closure of all 3 international airports, reduced the capacity when flights resumed, and the Level 3 U.S. travel advisory issued in November are all expected to push visitor arrivals downward. For the fiscal year ending March 2026, the economy is projected to decline between 3 and 6%. However, Dr. Henry stressed that the estimate may change as more information becomes available. MSMEs grumble about a delay in government's hurricane recovery support. President of the Micro, Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, Antoinette Hamilton, says members who suffered significant structural damage during Hurricane Melissa are growing impatient with a delay in receiving promised assistance from the government. Ms. Hamilton says in the interim, the organization has provided the affected businesses with cash grants and has recommended that they approach micro-lending institutions for loans to purchase building materials. The Ministry of Investment, Industry and Commerce has been tasked with identifying the businesses that will require intervention. But speaking with the news on Tuesday, Ms. Hamilton said the process is taking too long.
No further communication since then. The understanding is that they are still in data gathering process, which is quite frankly taking too long. So we need to hear from the Business Ministry and the Ministry of Finance through DBJ what support they have, if any, for business owners, so that they're not raising their expectations and they can actually, well, I guess they're currently doing it, but can actually look to some other direction to get some help. What I would say is that to the banks, I'm not so confident, but what I would say is that if their banks are in a position to offer lower interest rates to small businesses, we would appreciate that, so that they can recover. Because when we did our preliminary assessment, came on, most of our members, what they said that they would require to rebound is construction materials, and those are not cheap. And while I can understand where the larger companies are being focused on to some extent, the fact of the matter is that if the larger companies are rebound, these larger companies sell to smaller businesses. So the smaller businesses don't rebound simultaneously. How is it that trade is going to take place effectively?
Guys, thank you for watching. See you this evening at 6 p.m. for another news update.